So you guys know I've been on this journey, right? I weighed myself this morning. And hey everybody, my name is Tamara. I originally started this channel because I wanted to lose almost 100 pounds. I originally started off at 276 pounds. I just weighed myself this morning. I weighed 266 pounds. I feel great. I feel so accomplished. I feel like I really did what I set out to do. And so, because I am happy about the changes that I've made in my life, I'd also like to give you guys some tips and tricks that I used on my weight loss that helped me lose 10 pounds. Tip number 1, you have to learn to love yourself no matter what skin you're in, no matter what your body looks like. You have to love yourself at your current weight, where you are right now. When I weighed 276 pounds, I had to love myself there. I have always had confidence. I've never thought I was ugly, let alone, fat or anything like that. But during this journey, I've learned that you really do have to love yourself, because I could lose 10, 20, 100 pounds. I could reach my goal weight and that scale could say exactly what I wanted to say. But at the end of the day, if I don't love myself to begin with, the number on the scale will not change my perception of myself. So you really, really do have to just love yourself where you're at your current weight. Losing the weight will be great. It will be great. But you still have to love yourself regardless, even if you only lose a pound in the week. Tip number 2, choose foods that are good for you. During this entire time, I have made it a point to incorporate fruits and veggies into every meal, trying my best to make sure that my protein and everything is on point, just because I want to lose as much weight as I can. I want to get as close to my goal as possible, and I will get to my goal, but it's gonna take dedication. So I have been very strict about the foods that I've allowed myself to eat. You don't have to be that strict, but even then, I allow myself wiggle room. Anything that enters my mouth, I track, and that brings me to number 3. So number 3 is track your food. If it enters your mouth, track it. I use MyFitnessPal. I've also used Lose It in the past. Those are 2 great tracking apps, in my personal opinion, where you can put in everything that you're eating during the day, make sure that it's correct, and add it, and you know exactly what you're eating. You know what your macros will be. You know how many carbs you're eating, how much fat, how much protein, how much sugar you're intaking, how much sodium you're intaking. And you would be surprised what tracking your food will do to the way that you look at food. I've always been a person that used food for comfort. If I had a bad day, I would go and get ramen. Ramen is my favorite. I love ramen. I would go and get a bowl of ramen. Do you know how many calories are in a bowl of ramen? If I was going to a restaurant, okay, I wasn't even getting top ramen. I was going to a restaurant. I was getting like the biggest bowl that they had, okay? And it would be so spicy, but it also had so many carbs, so many calories, and so much sodium. And that was so bad on my body. At least once a week, once every 2 weeks, I was going and getting a bowl of ramen. And I realize now that that wasn't good for me. Tip number 4, choose a smaller plate. And you've probably heard it a bunch of times, that if you put everything on a smaller plate, it will like make you eat less. And I'm going to be honest, It worked for me. If I choose a smaller plate as opposed to a bigger plate, it will make me feel like visually, it'll make me feel like my plate is full. And it is. It's a smaller plate, so it's full. Once it's done and I'm looking at this plate and it's done, I've had enough time now where I'm feeling that I'm full. Especially if you're tracking everything, you're probably not going to be eating as many calories as you were before, which means that your plate used to be huge. Now your plate is going to be smaller now that you're tracking your calories. Looking at that empty plate still gives me that satisfaction, like, oh, I finished everything. Everything off my plate is done. But at the same time, I feel full. Maybe it's a mental thing, but I like it. Tip number 5 is to eat slower. So when you have the smaller plate, you're still going to need to slow down when you eat. Enjoy your food. Chew completely, as opposed to eating as if somebody was going to take the plate away from you. That helped a lot too, because it takes some second for your brain to register that you're full. And I don't know about you, but for me, I would wait until I was super, super hungry to then eat. And that is the worst time, because now I'm scarfing down food, and it doesn't matter what it is. I'm scarfing down food, and then by the time I realize that I'm full, I'm too full. I'm stuffed, and that's when you start feeling gross. And you know that feeling when you just have eaten so much that you're just like, oh, I need to lay down. That's how I would feel. So eat slower. You will finish a lot less food, and you will feel full. And if you're filling your diet with nutritious food, you're going to feel satiated for a lot longer as well. Tip number 6. You've also heard this one a lot, but meal prep. So I'm a person who can't eat the same thing every day. However, when I meal prep, I make enough for 2 meals. That works for me. If you're a person that you have to eat the same meal for the full 7 days of the week, have fun, go at it. If that is what works for you, then that is what works for you. But I had to modify that for me because I can't eat the same thing all week. I'm not gonna make one giant pot of anything and then just eat it all week. By the 3rd day, I don't want to eat it anymore. I don't want to see it. So I will make a meal just enough for 2 portions. One day I made steak with potatoes and green beans and mushrooms. I made that for 2 portions. Cooked it, ate one for dinner that night, ate one for lunch that next day. There was no way in the world that I was going to eat that for dinner, no matter how good it tasted, because I've eaten it already twice, back to back. I don't want it anymore. I also would spread them out. So if I made it for, if I made too much, like enough for 3 days, then I would just break it up. I would have one for dinner that night. I wouldn't have it for lunch the next day. I'd have it for dinner the next night, and then I would have it for lunch the next day. But whatever works for you, just meal prep. Set yourself up for success. Because I'm gonna be honest with you, if you're not meal prepping, if you're anything like me, you're probably going to just go to the nearest drive-thru because now you're so hungry because you weren't prepared and there was no food ready for you to eat. I have to have food ready for me to eat. If not, and I know I have to cook, there's this thing in my brain where I'm so hungry that I don't want to do any of the work anymore. So meal prep, it helps. Tip number 7, stay hydrated. You need to drink water. Not coffee, not tea, not an energy drink. You need water. And all those other things are great. You can have those things. Those things all have their purpose. They all help. But most of all, you need to be drinking water. Me personally, I drink 64 ounces of water a day, which is more water than I was drinking before. Maybe I need to drink more water, but right now, at where I'm at, I drink 64 ounces a day. I'm drinking that water. I'm not feeling dehydrated. My body's not holding on to water because I'm not giving it the amount of water that it needs. So make sure that you stay hydrated for sure. Tip number 8, stay in a calorie deficit. How many calories it takes for your body to maintain the weight that you are, and you cut it by about 500 calories. Anything under that maintenance number will make you lose weight. And depending on how much you cut will depend on how much you lose weight at a time. It's not recommended that you cut any more than, I believe, 500 calories. Don't take my word for it. I'm not a doctor. I have been eating right at about 1,500 calories a day. I've been maintaining that this entire time as I've been losing weight, incorporating all of my food into it, which means that I have been meticulous with the food that I've been eating, because if you know anything about calories, you could eat 1,000 calories, no problem. It's not hard. A meal at McDonald's will get you 1,000 calories. Staying under 1,500, I just planned out on my food in the morning, lunch, dinner, but staying in that calorie deficit is what is going to help you lose weight. Your diet is so important if the goal is to lose weight. I used this website that I saw from another YouTuber. I can't remember the name of it right now. If I remember what it is, I'll stick it here. I used this website to tell me around about what my maintenance number would be if I wanted to maintain the weight that I'm at. And then I cut it. Tip number 9, get moving. Move, exercise, go to the gym. It, one, will make you feel better. It helped so much in my mood and my attitude, the way I viewed myself and the way I viewed others. And I had so much energy that I didn't have before. I used to always feel tired around lunchtime, ready to pass out and go to sleep. Part of that had to do with what I was eating for lunch, but the other part of it had to do with the fact that my body was just sluggish all the time. Now, I'm not feeling that way, which is great. But a big part of it has to do with the fact that I'm just moving more during the day. I personally try my best. It doesn't always happen, but I try my best to park a little further away from the front of the grocery store. That way I can just walk. I told myself that I wasn't going to be that person anymore that parks as close as possible to the front doors. I go to the gym 3 times a week. No excuses. 3 times a week. Also, I try to get a little walking in. The cafeteria from my office is up a little hill. Nothing dramatic, but it's up a little hill. Normally I would drive. It's not even far, but I would drive from my office to the cafeteria because I didn't want to have to walk. And going up that little hill would take all the breath out of me. I would be huffing and puffing by the time I got to the top of that hill. So I started walking it. And now I go up the hill and I'm on my phone and I don't even realize that I've made it to the top. Get moving. Whether it's walking, whether it's going to the gym, whether it's just taking that time to park a little further and, make the extra few steps that it takes to get to the front door of the grocery store. If it's going to the park with your kids, get moving. Number 10, most of all, stay consistent. Consistency is key. You have to be consistent. If you are inconsistent, you will receive inconsistent results as well. So make sure that you are setting yourself up for success at every opportunity possible. And consistency doesn't necessarily mean that you will always hit your goals, but what it does mean is that you don't give up. You don't ever want to give up. You can do this. If nobody has told you that you can do this, you can do this. If I can do this, you can do this. Because I had no motivation for years to lose weight. I would look at myself and I would be like, I really would like to lose weight. And then I would be like, well, it doesn't matter. It's fine, because that's a lot of work. This is worth it. You are worth it. There's nothing wrong with being bigger if you're healthy. But for a lot of us, we're bigger and we're not healthy. So if nobody's told you that you can do it, I'm telling you, you can do it. I'm proud of myself for what I've done. I've got a lot more weight to lose, but I'm gonna take this 10 pounds as a win. And I'm going to continue to be happy about every pound that I lose. There will be times where your weight will fluctuate. There will be times where you step on the scale and you gain a pound, and that's okay. If you know that you have been consistent, if you know that you have been cutting your calories and you've been doing what you were supposed to do, then all right, you did what you were supposed to do. That is a win. Hopefully next week my body realizes, hey, I don't need that extra pound. Let's get rid of it. Stay motivated. You got this.